I haven't read the book, but I am here anyways.
I know. We love that energy.
Yes, thank you for your dedication, Nana.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm also going to pull it up on YouTube, which is very important.
Mm-hmm. Just did the same.
I hate how you can't mute it until it starts.
I know. It's disruptive.
Yeah. For those of you, well, actually anyone listening now, I was about to get started and then my contacts were like, wouldn't it be funny if we just didn't work? And then I wasn't at home last night, so nothing was in its right place and everything was everywhere.
But it's all worked out.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's all good. I've got my glasses in. I can see. I'm very excited to talk about this.
Yes. This is very bizarre to me to not have a Folgers copy with me. See? That's the one I'm supposed to have.
Oh, there we go.
Yes, that's the one. I should have brought it. Then we would all be matching, but it's at my new condo. And I went, oops. Oh, well.
I am not surprised that you have like multiple copies of A Midsummer Night's Dream.
This one, well, yeah, I do own multiple copies more than this. This one's for Mary Margaret. Because did I tell you guys about the thing that I'm doing? Where I'm like annotating favorite books and then friends are annotating their favorite books and then we're swapping.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, so I figured since I have to reread it anyways, I might as well annotate in the process. So if you guys think of any favorite books of mine that you've been interested in reading, we can swap.
Ooh.
Love that
I feel
idea.
like anytime I try to annotate Persuasion by Jane Austen, it's just like me drawing hearts around the letter.
I know.
That's quality, though.
Okay. Did we want to get started or should we wait a little longer? I think it's about 5 minutes in. So we can just get started with introductions and then move into the conversation. So hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us to our Past It Classics live show. We are going to be discussing A Midsummer Night's Dream by William Shakespeare. Before we go ahead and get started, I'm just going to give a few content warnings. We've got lack of consent with the love potion and references to sexual assault, but nothing like I don't think we're going to be going too explicit into those conversations. I just wanted to acknowledge them in case they did come up. So why don't we go ahead with our introductions? So if you two could please introduce yourself and maybe give us your prior experience with Shakespeare and this play. And I figure we might as well start with notorious Shakespeare hater.
Yeah.
I know how much you hate him.
Yeah, my least favorite author, honestly. Yeah, so I'm Julia. My channel is Shakespeare and Such, and I'm the same on Instagram and Jewel Shakespeare on Twitter. I feel like I never mentioned those others, so let's just pepper in all the social media. And I have a very long and special history with A Midsummer Night's Dream because, sorry, I'm going to tell a whole story right now, you guys. So my middle school had a tradition that there, at the end of the year, like in the spring, there was an 8th grade play. And so when I was in 7th grade, and the play was always Shakespeare. And so when I was in 7th grade, I went to go see the 8th grade play, and it was A Midsummer Night's Dream. And I was like, I don't know what this is, but I love it. And so I got the play from the library and read it on my own for fun. And then ever since then, it's just been this beautiful love affair between me and this play. And it's honestly, I think it's the first Shakespeare play I ever read. Potentially the first one I've seen. I don't know. So that's kind of cool. And I love this play a lot. And my dream is to play Helena. And a local theater was like, hey, we're doing Midsummer Night's Dream this year. And I was like, oh my God, this is my dream season. And then they were like, it's our youth theater doing that production.
No.
And I went, no. So.
Maybe you could like walk in on your knees.
Yeah. Yeah, my roommate was like, you should just like help them out, like do makeup or something. And I'd be like, I would not be able to shut up. I'd be like directing these kids. I'd be like, so listen, Hermia's motivation's a little different than how you're portraying it. Like, yeah. Overstepping. So yeah, that's my spiel.
Awesome. Kara, do you want to introduce yourself and tell us about Shakespeare and your experience with this play?
Sure. I mean, hard act to follow with Julia's like formative Shakespeare experience here. So hi everyone, my name is Kara. My channel is Wild Book Garden. I also really love Shakespeare. I don't have a like definitive origin story like Julia does. But it wasn't until college that I really started falling in love with his work. And I've always really enjoyed Midsummer Night's Dream, like since I read it. And I've always felt like it was really underrated. Like, okay, is anything by Shakespeare underrated? Questionable. But I feel like compared to the plays that get a lot of scholarly attention, it's kind of viewed as like, it's a silly comedy. And it is, but it also isn't. So I'm really excited to talk about it today. And yeah, like I really do enjoy this play, and I don't know how many times I've read it now, but this is not my first time reading it. Yeah, I don't know what else to say. It's like, yes, I'm here for it.
Awesome. And I'm Taylor from Page Screen Taylor. You are on my channel, and when I do post videos, I post videos about all genres, classics, romance, fantasy, sci-fi. I try to read across the board if possible. And my experience with Shakespeare, I think, had a really rocky start because my first experience was Julius Caesar in my 8th grade honors English class. And I think when you teach it pre-college, you really have to be good at teaching Shakespeare.
Yeah.
And I loved my 8th grade English teacher. I still love her to death. She did not teach it well. And so I barely knew what was going on. All I knew about was the, spoiler alert, Caesar murder scene. And then in 9th grade, I read Romeo and Juliet, and the teacher I had then was like leagues better, loved her. And so I liked that. And it wasn't until 12th grade when I read Macbeth was when I was really sold on Shakespeare. I love Macbeth. It is literally one of my favorite pieces of literature ever. I love it. I love it especially if you view it as a comedy because it's all about clowns. Like, sure, follow advice from women who live in the bushes. Like, that's fine. And in terms of A Midsummer Night's Dream, I've never read it. My only experience with it prior to, I think, this last year was an episode of The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody when they were putting on the play.
I referenced that recently. I don't know if I actually like edited that video, but I was like, is this niche? You know, that episode of Sweet Life of Zack and Cody? Thank you.
I'm happy I'm not the only one who remembers it.
No, I remember it so vividly.
The only thing I remember is them talking about Bottom the donkey. That's all I remember. And then I think a couple months ago, I watched an adaptation of A Midsummer Night's Dream, which I really liked, and it made me really want to read this, but this was my first time. And sort of going off of that, what are your thoughts and what ratings did you give these? Or this book?
This is a 5-star play to me. I love this play with my whole heart.
I am shocked.
What, Julia?
Yeah, but listen, like this is one of the few things where I'm like going by my little scale, right? And I'm like doing the averages, but it's one where I just start to feel like I'm not being impartial. I'm just saying like, yeah, I love it. 5 stars for plot, 5 stars for everything, even though like maybe there are some things I would change. It's one that I break the rules for.
I love that.
Yeah. Kara?
I think I'm still kind of deciding between a 4 stars and a 4.5 stars because I do really love this play. There's a couple of like specific hangups I have that I'm sure we'll get to. But one thing I was really struck this time, I had a blast reading the like rude mechanicals scene where it's like a bunch of doofuses putting on a tragedy. Like I always hated that part. And for whatever reason now I'm like, this is a good time. I'm just here for the nonsense. Like,
I feel like those are the parts I bookmarked the most.
Yeah, like it's just, they're hysterical. And like when they do the play at the end and all of these like the king or ruler of Athens or whatever is like talking shit about it. Like, he's like whispering to his fiance about how bad it is. I love it. So that was a fun surprise is how much I enjoyed that part. But yeah, it's also like it's very hard for me to read a play and not be like, what would my dream role be in this play? So that's one of the reasons I love it, because Helena and Hermia, I guess I'd be Hermia because I'm short and I have brown hair, but they're so great. So like there's some great like female roles here, and I love the drama. Like I just so yeah, between 4 and 4.5 stars. I haven't decided yet.
It's like the world's weirdest like Maury episode or something.
Yeah, it's wild.
So for me, I'm stuck between a 4 and a 4.5 star like you, Kara. I really, really enjoyed it. I think there were some parts that were maybe a little too long, but that's kind of how I am with most Shakespeare works. I'm like, dude, you could just scratch this out and we are good to go. And I also have a problem where whenever I read a Shakespeare play, doesn't matter if it's a history, comedy, tragedy, I'm like, this is good. It's no Macbeth though. And these two plays couldn't be more different, but I'm like, it's no Macbeth.
Yeah, my standard is like Much Ado About Nothing is my absolute like favorite. Well, it's tied with Hamlet for my favorite Shakespeare play. So anytime I read a comedy, I'm like Beatrice and Benedict though. Like so I get it.
Okay, unpopular opinion, I don't like Hamlet.
I understand.
I like it when Polonius dies. I don't know why I think it's so funny, but
because it is funny.
It's so funny.
It's ridiculous, yeah. Oh, I am slain.
I officially haven't read Hamlet, like the actual entire play. Haven't read it yet. So
I think also one of the reasons that I do like Hamlet is because like I didn't really get into Shakespeare until college, like I said, but we read Hamlet in my 12th grade like English class. I think it was one of those rare times where like even if you were in AP or honors or whatever, like you read the same thing, and I actually really liked it, like, because Hamlet was an angsty teenager at the same time I was an angsty teenager, so I just connected.
Fun
but
fact, Hamlet's actually 30.
Well, I've seen that. I've seen that there's different, like, there's different interpretations, because Shakespeare is notoriously bad with keeping track of when things happen. So it's like, depending on which line you believe, Hamlet's either, like, 16 or like 34. Like, who knows?
You know, that very close in range.
Yeah. I think the play makes more sense if he's a teenager, but I have seen that like possibility.
I like the idea of him being like an angsty adult who doesn't want to grow up yet, and he's like, listen, I can't deal with this today. Last thing I'm going to say about Hamlet before we move back into A Midsummer Night's Dream. I think one of the reasons I don't like Hamlet is I want to say it was 2016. I remember the year. I saw a production of Hamlet. It was an all-black production, and I was super excited for it, and it was so bad. And I was in the front row, and it was like, ooh, boy. So maybe that's also why I'm like, I can't think about it.
Yeah.
See, I think the key to enjoying any Shakespeare play is finding an all-female production, because I have seen an all-female Hamlet, loved it. I've seen an all-female Othello, loved it. I've been in an all-female Twelfth Night, loved it.
Ooh.
Like, it's always good. Can't miss.
Okay, that, or when I was in London, I missed out on the chance to see Nicolas Cage as King Lear.
What?
And I regret that to this day, because that has to be a buck wild production.
I mean, it kind of works with like, here, be the crazy guy, you know?
Yeah.
I saw the posters, and it wasn't until I looked at them closely, I was like, that's Nicolas Cage.
That's like one of my unpopular Shakespeare opinions. I think King Lear is just fine. Like, it is not my fave, but it's like widely acknowledged as one of the quintessential tragedies of everything. And I'm like, okay.
It just gets me hyped, because I'm like, 3 girls, 3 of them? Wow, thanks.
That's true.
I take breadcrumbs from Shakespeare. I'm like, thank you for the girl.
I know.
Yeah, I mean, Lady Macbeth, another girl boss.
I love her. I love
just building her empire. Literally building her empire.
We have strayed away.
Anyways, A Midsummer Night's Dream, you guys.
Listen, if I can find a chance to rant about Hamlet or talk about Macbeth, I will. So. But like, speaking of the female characters, I sort of wanted to talk about the characters overall before we get into the more in-depth questions. You know how I run my live shows. Let's just rant or rave about the characters.
It's my favorite segment. I love it.
So I'm no actress, but if I were to act in this, I would want to either be Titania or Hermia. So let's talk about Hermia first. So what are your thoughts on her? I love her personally.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
No, sorry. I was just gonna say, like, honestly, I love all three main women in this play. Like, they're all fantastic.
Titania, is it Titania or Titania?
I think it's Titania. That's how I've always
Especially
heard
when
it.
they're British, they say Titania.
Yes.
Titania. Okay. Yeah. Titania gets done so dirty.
I
But I
know.
love her. I love her so much.
Yes. Love her so much.
Yeah, go ahead.
I love Hermia, and in general, I think she's a really interesting character. But I especially I sent you guys that link, right, of the the discussion about like race with Shakespeare and stuff. I don't know if either of you watched it or if anyone in the chat happened to see this same thing, which maybe, I don't know. But I think it's very interesting, the little tidbits that you can pull out that kind of make it seem like Hermia could be Black or like a woman of color. Because, they're always talking about her dark hair. And in the scenes later when both of the men are under the spell of the flower, like, they're saying terrible things to her, but they're very like racially targeted things about darkness.
Yeah.
And that's just like a very interesting read to me that I certainly never noticed like when I was younger. And then, the last couple of reads, I'm like, interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. I accept that. He made for television production I watched of A Midsummer Night's Dream had a Black woman cast as Hermia. And that's also how I imagined her because that's all I had to go off of. But I definitely accept the reading that Hermia is Black.
Yeah.
I'm biased for obvious reasons.
Yeah, I think it's like there's quite a few places I think in Shakespeare, if I'm remembering correctly, where like the words they use at the time could mean like, oh, you have dark hair, or like you are actually a person of color, because English people talked about everyone the same way.
They were like, is she dark or fair? And it's like, oh, you were talking about my hair? Oh.
Yeah. So
why? That's a weird way to describe it, just based on a little percentage of a human.
Yeah. So obviously when I was saying, oh, I'd love to play Hermia, I did not mean if she was supposed to be played by a Black woman. No, just to clarify.
You declaring
I really love Hermia, and something I also really like appreciate about her character is, well, like her and Helena's dynamic I think is so interesting and just would be fantastic to play or witness. But I think Hermia, like, it would be very easy for her to be like a flat character, and I don't feel like she is. Like you meet her and she's like, oh, so she's like the pretty one. She's always the one who gets like the attention from the male characters, and then we see what happens when like that kind of gets taken away from her, and she's still a great character. So I really like that. Also, I think it's cool with our reading of Hermia as being a woman of color. That's really cool that she's like the beautiful one who gets like all the attention. Like, I mean, there's that scene where she doesn't, but that's I think pretty cool.
Yeah.
But only magic could make their eyes stray from the beautiful.
Yes. Yes.
And also, like, I don't know, I really like the idea of Helena describing her as sort of like fierce and like that she can be a little like I don't know, mean or harsh. I love that too.
Though she be but little, she is fierce. I have that on a print on my wall.
I like just downloaded a cross stitch pattern.
Yeah, I love it. I love that. Yeah.
Yeah, I do love that though, and I really think the character, and we're going to get to how women are discussed, but I mean, we could also move to that question now in general. But like, I don't know, the fact that the women are, fleshed out in a way is, I don't know, I loved it. I love that Hermia gets like a full personality, just from the descriptions of her as being like nice when she wants to be, but she also has this sort of like fierce streak about her. I love that. I love that Helena can also be a little like vindictive and jealous. I don't know. And obviously Titania is just really interesting and funny. She gets the comedic subplot, but it's still like, I don't know, she gets to be funny. So
yeah. I love even at the beginning, like I think it's the very first scene, in fact, where Hermia's there with the Duke and her dad, and they're being like, well, this is your dad, so you have to marry who he says. And she says, I should find the actual line, but she says something like, I don't know what makes me so bold to say this, but I disagree with you guys.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna say what I think.
Yeah. I love how like all the women in this play really talk back, and I love it.
Yeah.
So
Like
much.
one of like I think Helena, well, she has several great speeches, and I know we're not on her yet, but I really, really love when she like confronts, when she thinks the other characters are making fun of her, she like goes after them. And she like tells Hermie, she's like, I thought we were friends. Like we're closer than sisters. Like to that image of like two trees that have grown so close together. I love it.
Cherries on the stem.
Yes. And like she tells them, she's like, this is messed up. You guys are terrible people. I'm leaving. Like, bye. Like I love her. I love all these women.
Yeah. They're all so good. That's my favorite scene in general.
It's such a good scene.
Yeah, I think that's one that I bookmarked, and I basically like blocked out the entire page. I was like, you go, Helena. But I also really love the description of like their friendship.
I love that.
Because I feel like other than what's the play called? As You Like It. I haven't seen really strong female friendships in a Shakespeare play.
Mm-hmm.
I'm reading As You Like It this month, so I'm very excited to hear it.
So good.
Yeah, it's good. It's a fun one.
Yeah, I loved it. I just read it for the Shakespeare class I was taking this summer, and I didn't expect to like it as much as I did, but it's good.
Yeah.
So we can talk about Helena too, who I also love. And I think the thing I love about her is that she's really tall, and she's not supposed to be super pretty, but I don't know. I love that she... I don't know. I feel bad that she keeps getting rejected by Demetrius, and I'm like, girl, he's not that great.
Yeah.
Find someone better.
Yeah. This play is just me wanting to tell all the women, like, you can do better. Like, please.
Yeah.
Yeah. For real. Yeah, I think I know. When I first read this play in 7th grade, from the library, I'm like reading that scene where she's like, Demetrius thinks your eyes more fair. Demetrius likes your smile. And I was like, I'm projecting. Oh no, this is me. I am Helena. We are the same person. And so probably like I started loving her not on a very healthy level. But since then, I've just like come to appreciate like how amazing and like deep her character is. Like she genuinely gets so much in this play, like about her friendship with Hermia and her relationship with these other people, and just like, yeah, it's super cool, and I love her, and I will defend Helena until the day I die.
Yeah.
That's my favorite character.
Yeah, it's funny you said that, Julia, because I'm pretty sure the first time I encountered this play, which I don't think I had read the whole thing, maybe it was for a theater class and we were looking at like speeches or something, but I also remember being like, oh no, like Helena, like, I'm like, this is, I don't want to look in this mirror right now. Like, it's just like, but I think that's one of the things that makes it so satisfying to see her, like, different experiences throughout the play is because she seems to, like, she's not a completely unconfident character, but she has insecurities like everybody else, and so it feels so earned when she like moves past them or when she like gets happiness anyway. Yeah, I love Helena.
Yeah,
total agreement, because she really does say her mind all the time. Go ahead.
Yeah, the thing I also love is that she has these flaws too, like, you know, she is insecure about the way she looks, and she's jealous of Hermia because she's pretty and gets all the guys. And she does something wrong in the beginning. She betrays Hermia basically to get the attention of Demetrius. And I do like that she has that flaw about her, that her jealousy gets the better of her. And I thought that was like, I don't know, it was really interesting to start off it's not about female friendship, but in my brain, it's about female friendship. Yeah. I mean, I guess we can talk about the men. I guess if I had to choose,
if we have to, yeah.
Which one would you go with?
Ooh. I mean, Lysander.
Yeah.
He seems to be the better of the two.
I also, just because I love this play so much, like, I would really love to name my future son Lysander, but I also don't want him to get beat up on the playground.
Right.
It's like middle name.
Yeah.
But that's what I think of every time I hear his name. I feel like Lysander like has a very genuine heart. I mean, obviously, magic does things out of our control, but like I really love in the beginning when he's like, "Look, this could blow up in both of our faces, but I have an aunt. Like, let's run away.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we can just be in love and do our thing there because she loves me like a son." And it's like, wow, you're just like sacrificing your whole life in Athens to go be with the woman you love, and that's cool. I respect it.
Yeah, and I mean, he respects consent. Like when Helena is like, "Hey, like let's not like sleep so close," and Hermia. I'm gonna be mixing up their names. I'm so sorry.
I know what you meant.
But he listens to her, which should happen anyway. But it's nice to see in such an old play. Yeah, I also, like you, Julia, Lysander is the only kind of decent one. So I do think, I remember too from the first few times I read this play, I find Demetrius a more interesting character, but he's terrible. So, like, which I think also, when I first read, like, sections from this play, which I have no idea how old I was, but it was a while ago, I don't think I picked up on exactly how bad some of the things Demetrius says are. Mm-hmm. And it's only like as I got older that I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, no, like, you should not. And then the Oberon and Titania storyline just makes me rage. I hate how that plays out. So it's kind of like Lysander wins by default.
Yeah, there's not a lot of I guess decent males. Maybe Bottom.
He seems nice.
Yeah. Bottom seems like a nice himbo, He's got a good heart, but he's a buffoon. He likes acting. So funny. That's a plus. Like, that's I love true. An actor.
He's very earnest.
Yeah. But there's Puck, if you're into some mischief.
That's true. Puck's a fun character.
People who stand Loki, I feel like really would stand Puck,
Like a lot of chaos. They made Puck like, suave and sexy, but I can also imagine him being just like a really annoying character.
There's a lot of interpretations of Puck.
Yeah. I think I might have seen, I can't even remember, but I think I might have actually seen a production of this one, and I think they did kind of make Puck a like charming and like mysterious fairy, like a little bit attractive but dangerous. Like I think they went that route with him.
He's kind of attractive in the National Theater one. And also in the National Theater one, Lysander is Kit Young. So case closed. Love that man. Sorry, I got aggressive.
I mean, once again, the bar it's honestly in hell, but obviously Shakespearean times, whatever. I do prefer Lysander because, like, at least he gets Hermia's consent to marry her, as opposed to Demetrius, who's like, well, her dad said we could get married, so I guess I'll follow her into the woods.
Yeah, I have a huge issue, like one of the things that I don't love about this play, which is just, like, I understand at the time period this would not have been a big deal, but it really bothers me that Demetrius never has the love potion taken off. Like,
oh yeah,
Lysander does, so it's like, okay, he truly loves, I'm going to be mixing up their names now.
Hermia.
Thank you guys. I love them and I can't keep them apart.
Well, I say in every play, I'm like, stop naming everyone with the same first letter. Like,
yeah, especially when their storylines overlap so much. But like, so Lysander really loves her, whereas with Demetrius, he gets hit with the magic flower juice, and that's it. Like, he's been.
I didn't even think of that.
Yeah, like I went back and checked because I thought I remembered that from this time, and then I went back and looked at that scene again, and it does not, like when Robin takes the enchantment off, he only takes it off Lysander, and I'm like, I don't like that.
Yeah, like Demetrius is gross, and he shouldn't be with Helena, but he should he should be able to choose or at least have some sort of say in it.
Exactly. Like, he sucks, but nobody should be forced to feel love when they don't want to.
See, that's where my inner Helena comes out. I'm like, good for you, girl. You got what you wanted. He's the worst, but now he's not because he loves you. Like, sorry, problematic, but maybe I'm a little vindictive like Helena.
I mean, I doubt Shakespeare was taking into account, like,
Yeah, no.
you know, the...
Exactly.
He's like...
I guess the gray area of love potions.
Yeah.
He was like, but how am I going to have a triple wedding at the end if I don't keep the love potion on? Guess I will keep it.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't put down Theseus and Hippolyta in this, but that was such... Did he capture Hippolyta, or was that a consensual thing?
Yeah, it's...
Yeah, she's like super kidnapped, I think.
Super kidnapped.
Yeah.
We got years of kidnapped.
Not just a little bit, like way kidnapped.
Kidnapped.
Because they don't talk about it a lot, but I remember from like Greek mythology, I'm pretty sure Theseus like captures her. Like I think it's one of those things where like he falls in love with her because she's so good at fighting, and then he just like carries her off, and I'm like, okay.
The footnote in this edition when he's talking about like, I wooed thee with my sword, blah blah blah, literally just says Theseus had captured Hippolyta when he conquered the Amazons. So
yeah, which also like, how shitty is that? It's like you conquer these like this band of warrior women and like just carry one off with you.
Yeah, like a sack of potatoes.
I love
this one's my bride now.
Sword, because it's kind of like skirting around the issue. Like, oh no, she wanted to go with me. Of course, you know, I had her at sword point, and she was sort of tied up. But you know,
yeah, like, oh, she was super turned on by how I held her life in my hands, so we're in love now.
You know, some women like a little bit of danger.
Wow, all my book clubs are overlapping with this conversation, you guys.
Really?
Yeah, because I'm reading about Elizabeth Woodville right now, which I don't know if either of you have watched The White Queen or whatever, but the story goes that there's like 3 versions of it, but like King Edward the Fourth, basically like, well, okay, so he was trying to pressure her into things when they were not like married. She was just this lady he knew. And so either the story goes that she held a knife up and was like, I would rather die than be dishonored. And like, that's pretty badass. Or the story goes that she held the knife at him, or that he had the knife at her and she was like, go ahead, do it. I would rather die than be dishonored, blah, blah, blah.
Also badass.
Yeah, also badass. But so I don't know if there's like a nugget of historical truth to that. They did get married though, because he was like, whoa, respect, that's pretty dope. Okay, marry me instead. And she's like, yes.
What a meet cute. Oh my god.
Yeah.
I was like, so how did you two meet? And it's like, wow.
Yeah. He tried to sexually assault me. I pulled out my dagger. The rest is history.
Yeah.
Anyways.
So I would also like to talk about the fairy people, particularly Oberon, Puck, and Titania. And this is a question I have later, but I feel like we can talk about it now because it was a huge plot point, but it was very what was the deal with the Indian boy? Was he like a stolen baby that they replaced with the changeling, but they want him for some reason?
I think so. They have, that's like such a weird plot point, and I think it's like the handmaiden was one of Titania's like train, and then it was her handmaiden's child, but then they call the kid a changeling child later. So I don't know exactly how that works, because I think the kid is human, which would, I guess, make... So, Julia, go ahead and explain as the expert on this play.
Yeah, I mean, the way I read it, I think is almost what you said, Kara, but I do think the woman was human. Like, I think Titania was out doing fairy things and, like, befriended this woman, and the woman was like, hey, you're the fairy, that's cool, whatever, and they were, like, friends, and then when she died, you know, Titania was all nobly like, I'll raise this child, whatever. Yeah. And then Oberon came and was a butt.
Ruined everything.
Oh, you love it? Well, I'm gonna take it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I seriously didn't get that, and I feel like part of it was they wrote it out of the Midsummer Night's Dream production that I saw, which I think was the right choice because it has that tinge of like racism where they, because the kid isn't even named, he's not even on screen, he has no thoughts about getting traded between fairies. Like, this is a weird weekend for the kid.
Or taken from India.
Yeah, like what happened with that? I just find it funny that they're fighting over something that like has almost no bearing on the plot. Yeah. I think like in the version I saw, they had it that Titania and Oberon were exes or something.
I mean, they are.
They kind of are. Yeah, they're like currently fighting, which is like causing havoc in the natural world.
Yeah.
I also think that having that subplot, like that ulterior motive that Oberon has, it kind of makes it feel worse what he does to Titania, because it's not just like, oh, he's a trickster fairy and he causes havoc with this love potion. It's like, I'm gonna ruin everyone's lives for as long as it takes for me to get a hold of another human being. And then it's fine, we're gonna make up like nothing happened. Oh, also, my wife might have had sex with a donkey, but I'm not gonna tell her about it. Like, what? Like,
it's just a prank, bro.
Exactly. Like, it's so weird. Like, it makes him feel more manipulative, I think, to have that subplot, whereas like he's still bad without it, but now it's like, oh, like you're doing it, like you knew all this would happen because all you care about is taking something your wife has, which is actually a person.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because the whole like donkey head fall in love with him thing like wasn't even the point of his like revenge. Like, he did that to be like, now she'll be distracted, she'll forget about the child, and I'll take him.
Yeah.
And it's a different thing if he's just like, hee, I make her kiss a donkey man. Like, that's much more harmless to me, even though it's so weird.
I think like one of the versions I saw, which I think it was the Michelle Pfeiffer one, which I enjoyed. That one was good. But depending on how they stage it, it's like strongly implied that like her and the donkey, like he looks like an actual donkey, and they like wake up in bed together, and I'm like, this makes Oberon even worse. Like,
but if it makes you guys feel better, if you watch the National Theater production, they well, not even gender swapped. They just gave Titania Oberon's part and Oberon Titania's part. So Titania makes Oberon fall in love with Bottom. And it's really delightful. And they dance to Beyonce together.
I saw that clip on your Instagram story and I love it. I think about it almost daily.
It's my favorite thing in the world.
I need to watch that one. I know you sent us the link and I just need to like make time to watch it.
It's the best production I've ever seen of my favorite play, and it makes me so happy. And the girls are fierce in it. You guys are going to love them.
Now I really want to watch it. Maybe once I get my next cross-stitch project started. So that way.
Yes.
And Puck, I wanted to talk about Puck because I think he's really interesting, but also I kept getting, not confused, but I kept forgetting that his name was also Robin Goodfellow. So I would keep reading like Robin, and I'm like, who's Robin? This is something Puck would say. Where's Puck? And I think funny. Part of it is like, if Puck had done what Oberon had done, like enchanting Titania to fall in love with the first horrible, horrible thing, he saw, I think it would have a much more different tone because that's just Puck. He's just quirky like that.
Yeah. That's so Puck, you know?
Yeah. I think isn't like a Puck also like the name for a kind of fairy? At least I've seen that in other stories, but I don't know if that's like something one author made up or if that's like widely acknowledged. But yeah, I think Robin / Puck is a really interesting character, and he's kind of just like the force for chaos in the play. And Taylor, like you said, I think that's why, even though he's a part of the bad stuff happening, it doesn't bother me as much, because like that is very much what people believed fairies were, is like they don't have morality the way we do, and they just like create chaos, and sometimes it's good chaos and sometimes it's bad, and like you don't want to get on their bad side. So yeah, I think that his actions, while not great, they at least felt like it made sense for him. Yeah, I do also find it really interesting that like he seems to be working for Oberon, but he's also very independent feeling as a character. I don't know if that makes sense, but it's like Oberon is like, yeah, go and do this thing, and he's like, okay, and then he's like, go and put the juice on the Athenians, and he's like, wrong one. Like, so he's like following orders, but I mean, he gets the last speech in the play, which is a great speech. So I don't know where I was going with that. That was just me rambling about Puck.
But I did Google it. So Google defines Puck as 1, another name for Robin Goodfellow, 2, a mischievous or evil sprite. So
okay, there we go.
Okay, there we go. So anyone could be Puck.
Yeah,
Puck is inside us all along.
We are all Puck.
We are all Puck.
It's beautiful.
And I just wanted to talk about Bottom for a bit because I expected to be so annoyed by Bottom. I expected to hate him, but he had some of the funniest lines in this play. I know we talked about him a bit, but he was on my list, and I was like, "Oh, Bottom."
Yeah, it's funny that Puck and then Bottom are kind of like together in this clump of that we're talking about, because when I read a Midsummer Night's Dream, they're kind of the guys that I'm like, okay, yeah, you're here, you're doing the sillies, la la la. And then when I watch it, I'm like, oh, you guys, I love you. It's like whenever I'm watching someone perform them, they're like my favorites. And then when I'm reading them, they're like, oh, okay, whatever. So yeah, I don't know where I was going with that thought, but it's just, it's funny that it's like 2 different experiences in my mind.
Yeah.
Okay, I do get that though, because I feel like sometimes with Shakespeare's comedic characters, it's more in the performance than it is in the writing. Mm-hmm. So like what I'm thinking of is like Falstaff. Yeah. Like, you know, he's funny in productions, but like not as much on paper.
Yeah.
I just had to read, he's in the Merry Wives of Windsor too, right? But I just read all the history plays that he's in, and I was like, get this guy out of this play.
So
like, I hated him. He's so annoying. But I bet when I watch them, I'm going to be like, oh, silly man.
Yeah.
Dumb stuff. Like, I hated him.
Yeah. Well, like when I saw the ballet version of A Winter's Tale, which I highly recommend, even if you don't care about that play, which I don't usually, it's great. But like when we read that for a class, for one thing, it's just a very bizarre play, and it's one of the like problem plays, because it's like, what genre is this supposed to be anyway? But like the scenes where they're like, and now we're gonna hang out with the farmers, and they're just silly because they're farmers, and everyone knows they're comedy or something. Like Shakespeare likes to do that a lot in his comedies, and it's just those scenes are so long and they're so unnecessary and they're not funny at all. And then in the ballet version, I'm like, this is a great time. Like they're doing their little like flower dances, like everything is just like really, it's like a fun way to break up like the drama of the play. So no, I definitely think that depending on how you experience a play, like the comedy, especially something like comedy, it's like you were saying, it's all in the performance.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I also just finished reading The Winter's Tale, and just a side note, for people who don't know, that's the play where Exit Pursued by a Bear exists, and I love it.
The play is exactly as bananas as you would expect from that fact. Like, it's so weird.
Maybe in the future we'll do a Past It Classics on The Winter's Tale, because
I
have a lot of thoughts on it.
We should. It is bonkers.
I've seen it, but I haven't read it, so I'm like, okay, all right. So weird.
Yeah. So I wanted to touch very briefly on how dirty this play was, which like sometimes this stuff goes over my head, but you know, I have the Folgers edition, so sometimes I'll check to make sure that my interpretation is correct. And when I got to like the final play scene, I was like reading it and I'm like, okay, I see what's happening. And then I read the annotations and I'm like, oh. I became like a pearl clutching Southern woman. Oh my!
Oh.
Oh my goodness!
Did he say that? Like,
Yeah. Very on brand for Shakespeare. You know.
Yeah. It cracks me up how, like, well, like you were saying, Taylor, like, it really, if you're going to teach Shakespeare in, like, high school, you have to be really good at it specifically. And it's like, so many teachers, they try and be like, and this is the pinnacle of all great thought and literature. And I'm like, this is a dick joke. Like, it's, yeah.
Yeah, that got me because I was like, okay, you know, it's a wall. I see what's yeah. But I just wanted to bring that up because I do feel like it's an important part of the play because I feel like it might be one of his dirtiest plays. I don't know. I just remember Macbeth not having that many sexy jokes. So
Yeah.
Yeah, they're in the tragedies, but certainly not as much as in the comedies.
Yeah. So I wanted to ask you too, what was the funniest moment for you? Because this is a very funny play.
Mm-hmm. I think the one that cracked me up the most is the scene we were talking about where they're doing the play and there's just commentary. Like, I think I even marked part of that. Because that's a part, like I said, the rude mechanicals thing was never my favorite part of the play. And even when they're doing the play at the end, I was like, all right, we get it. They're bad actors. But, like, the commentary is hysterical. Like, Theseus says, moonshine and lion are left to bury the dead. And Demetrius says, aye, and wall too. So it's like, you're picturing this, like, person in a wall costume who's, like, building, and, like, the one playing Moonlight goes off page, or goes off stage, and Hippolyta's like, how's he gonna see her body? Like,
it's very Mystery Science Theater.
It's very what?
Mystery Science Theater.
I find that probably was, like, the funniest scene for me, is, like, just the commentary.
The line from that scene that I love the most, which, again, is in the side commentary, cracks me up every time because I think, like, some Shakespearean jokes, like, you have to kind of, like, put yourself in, like, that time period and be like, they would think that's so funny. But this has just aged like a fine wine. When Hippolyta goes, indeed, he hath played on this prologue like a child on a recorder. In sound, but not in government. I'm like, literally, yes!
Like, he's sure making noises. Like,
you sure are playing sounds on there. Good work, buddy.
So part of this is going to go in the gender discussion, but I thought the funniest parts were when what are they called? Because in my version they call them, like, clowns. the mechanical. Yeah,
I think in dialogue at one point they refer to themselves as, or somebody calls them, the rude mechanicals, and that's how I think that's how my Shakespeare professor always called them, so that's what I, like, internalized. But they are clowns.
Yeah.
And rude as in, like, crude.
Okay, that makes sense. But you know how they're, like, rehearsing the play and they're like, so we're going to have a lion come in, but wait, the women might faint, so we have to announce, no, it's really me, whatever his name is, Snort.
You said, gentle ladies, I am not a real lion.
You guys, for real, I can't get over it. You're gonna love the National Theater production because the mechanicals are so good in that. They're so good.
I'm, like, excited, and, like, oh, Snug, not Snort. Snug is lion. You ladies, whose gentle hearts do fear the smallest monstrous mouse that creeps on the floor, may now perchance both quake and tremble here, when lion rough and wildest rage doth roar. Then know that I, as Snug the joiner, am a lion fell. And I'm just like, it's so funny to imagine him in a lion costume and then, like, lifting up, like, the head and going, no, it's me, Snug.
I think, like, what an image that always cracks me up too is just, like, picturing one of the actors. I'm like, I'm the wall, and he just stands there.
Keep
the whole time.
Mhm.
And like one of them comes in like, I'm Moonlight. Like,
Oh, I love it. I love the sort of community theater aspect
Yeah,
of this, but like not even like good community theater. Like
yeah.
the play that
Zero
goes
budget.
wrong. I don't know if you've seen that play, but it's really
Wait, did you
good.
say the play that goes wrong?
I've seen it, yeah.
I love that play. Sorry, I thought that's what you were talking about. Did you say that? Am I crazy?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
I love that play so much.
It's so good.
If anyone ever has the opportunity to see it, see it. I don't think I've ever laughed so hard in the theater.
It's like something you don't expect to love, and then as soon as you're there, you're like, this is the greatest work of theater I've ever seen. Wow.
And
Like,
everything is like literally on fire.
and the precision to make everything go wrong in ways that like no one's actually getting hurt, and like, you know, the cues are happening, like it's impeccably done. It's so
Yeah.
good.
And the characters take a lot of damage, or at least the actors have to be able to take a lot of damage in that play. So I kind of wanted to discuss like gender in this play, and it's obviously something I always take with me, or like the thought I take with me in any sort of like particularly like literature or literary work. But in this one, I think I started to pick up on it during the scene where Bottom was like, the ladies might be scared.
Mhm.
But I'm sure like gender comes into play a lot with, you know, the four, what are they called? The lovers?
Lovers.
Mhm.
The lovers. So I don't know if you two had anything to say on that, or like the role of women in this play.
Yeah. I think that's one of the reasons why I love this play, is because I think the women have so much agency in the play. Because, you know, like for example, Taylor, you were talking about Julius Caesar earlier, and I just read that for the first time last month, and I was like, wow, Portia and what's Calpurnia, like you ladies are really interesting. And then like one dies off page, and then the other has a murdered husband, and we never hear from her again. And I'm like, so what happened to these interesting characters? They're just gone. And in this play, it's like not only are the girls here and they're present, and we're like, you know, seeing a lot of them, we're also like seeing them make choices, and choices that go against what men want them to do. And, you know, I love it. Helena has the line when she's following Demetrius into the forest, and she's like, I'm going to find it so I don't mess it up. Because I don't want to misquote my girl. But she says, nope, not that one. It's got to be later then. Hold on, sorry. So she's following Demetrius. Says, the story shall be changed. Apollo flies and Daphne holds the chase. And I love it every time.
Yes,
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I agree. Like we've been talking about, the women in this play are just so interesting and so well-rounded and so complex. And I think it's interesting that we have, so there's four main women. Hippolyta isn't in it a lot, but she is like an important character in the sense that she like is around for the majority of the plot, I guess. And it's interesting to me because Hippolyta and Titania have very like, I don't know, tangible expressions of power. Like Hippolyta is like a warrior queen, and Titania is queen of the fairies, and she clearly has a lot of power. And both of them are in this play in positions where they're not able to use their power. Like they're kind of, I mean, the only word that's coming to mind is like subjugated by like their husbands or their fiancés, which is obviously a bummer. Whereas with Helena and Hermia, they're just like regular people, but they are the ones, like they are the women who end up getting what they want, and who do things like stand up to their father, which would have been a huge deal. I mean, he even says like, so are you going to the convent, or are you going to get executed? Because those are your options. Like, so, yeah, I just think that's very interesting that like the women you would expect to be powerful are not so much in the play, even if they're interesting characters. And then the ones who you would think would be at the mercy of the men in their lives, like Helena and Hermia both end up marrying the person they want to, and like standing up to a lot of men to do it. Yeah. So
yeah, I agree with what you said, especially I think so. I mentioned that the scene where Bottom is like worried about protecting the ladies' faint hearts, which I do think, I mean, obviously it's played for laughs, but I do think like maybe Shakespeare was trying to say something about gender, like maybe other playwrights at the time were trying to protect, because I know ladies weren't really allowed in the theater back then, but I guess sometimes they made an appearance.
I think, yeah, like, Julia, you might know specifics about this, but I think, like, they couldn't play on the stage, but they could attend, but it was generally, like, poor lower class women, like the rabble, or if, like, you were the queen, you could, like, show up and watch whenever you wanted. Like, I think that's my understanding, at least.
Yeah, but, like, I mean, the middle class didn't really exist as we know it back then.
Yeah.
But, like, the middle class and maybe, like, the nobility, like, those women weren't really supposed to attend.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. That was, I wanted to make sure. But I know it's played for laughs, but I do wonder if Shakespeare meant it to also be a commentary on how some people feel like they have to, like, protect the women who are watching a play or something.
Yeah.
And, like, sort of baby them and hold their hand through it.
Yeah. I agree, yeah.
So interesting you bring that up, Taylor, because I think that's like one of the things I enjoy like most about reading Shakespeare, and it's so old and everything we and even scholars say, like, it's all speculative, you know, like we're just thinking like maybe this is what he meant, like maybe that was his intention. And there are so many things like that where it's like we could take this literally, or is he poking fun at what people were saying at the time? Like, is this a snide little remark? So yeah. It's really interesting that you brought that up. I wasn't thinking of it that way.
Yeah, I also think that section could be, because it's clearly supposed to be silly, and so it's kind of like he's using a silly example of, like, you guys think women are scared by, like, this little stuffed animal man, like
this man in a fursuit.
yeah, and also
furries. You heard it here first.
And also, like, Julia, like you were saying, so much of this interpretation is like best guesses, but I do also, I like this play, so I'm probably biased, but I'm like, how would you come away from this play and not think about how interesting and competent the women are? Like, do you know what I mean? It's like, even with all these gaps where we don't know what Shakespeare intended, it's like, he wrote a bunch of badass women in this play. Like, it's hard to misinterpret that, you know?
And like, Hermia and Helena both got what they wanted. Like, there's a lot of comedies with happy endings where it's like, but she ended up with that guy who was, like, stalking her, or, like, that guy was yelling at her the whole time, and now they're going to get married and she likes it. Like, they don't really fly all the way. But this one, I'm like, no, they were like, I want that man. They got that man. Like, good for you, girls. Okay.
And I think it's so nice that basically Act 1, Scene 1, you have a woman defying the man who's basically in charge of her, like, just right off the bat. And that's really what sets a lot of the events in motion. So I feel like that women have that sort of, like, control and agency over, like, the entire story.
Yeah. And even though Theseus is the one at the end who's like, I hereby pardon you, you guys can stay in Athens, like, they would have left if they had to. So she still would have made her own choice, I think, and gotten what she wanted. Like, I mean, it's nice that they don't have to run away, but I feel like even though Theseus is the one who kind of makes everything okay with that, it's like she started out defying somebody, like you said, Taylor, and I think she also would have been okay with continuing to do that if she had to.
Yeah. That girl's gonna go down fighting.
Yeah.
I told you guys that I had annotated this one specifically for Mary Margaret. And so you can't see because these tabs are really pastel, but they are like different colors. And my first pink one, I wrote, let the girl power tabs begin. And it's in that first scene. Yeah. So many opportunities for them.
Yeah. And also, Taylor, going back to what you were saying about, like, the portrayal of gender in this play and how, like, there's a case to be made for thinking that Shakespeare was making commentary. I just want to mention one of the quotes that I marked is during a speech of Hermia's. And she says, let's see. So this is when she's talking to Lysander. And I think this is when everything's still okay and they're in love with each other. But she says, by all the vows that ever men have broke, in number more than ever women spoke. And I marked that part and I just went snap because, like, I just love that. Like, even when she's in love and, like, happy with her man, she's like, well, we know that men break promises all the time, so the fact that I trust you is a sign of how much I love you. But sometimes men are trash. Like, I just love that line.
You reading it, I was like, yeah.
I love that line. And, like, especially in a comedy, like where things end up, like romantically, things end up working out okay. But I just love that that line is included, especially because women at the time period, especially, had this reputation for being fickle and like women are so inconstant and blah blah blah. And Hermia's here to tell you that's not true.
Yeah, I agree with that too. And I think it's funny that you mentioned like women are inconstant, because from what I can remember, the only people who get hit with the love potion, it's Lysander and Demetrius who are basically being the inconstant ones.
Touche.
Obviously by force, but
Yeah.
It is, but it's like dramatic irony. We're like, yeah, they're men. And Demetrius changed his mind at the beginning, anyways. Cause
I was gonna say that, yeah.
But yeah,
So
when
he
they're
actually
like,
was inconstant.
Helena, and then was like, maybe I want Hermia, which is very interesting to me, by the way. In that, like, he was kind of into Helena and then switched to Hermia, and then like went through that, like through the route of her father, like knowing that she wouldn't be into him, because like part of me is like, well, maybe he's like after money or something, if that's what you're going for. But then I'm like, but these girls are best friends. Like, you would think of they're pretty of equal standing. So I don't know. It just like is a lot of food for thought for me. Like, what is that about for Demetrius?
Yeah, I always forget that, because they don't talk about it a lot. Like, I always forget that Demetrius used to be in love with Helena, and then he like switched. So that makes all the things that he says to her so much worse. Like, because they were together, and now he's like, I could just abandon you in the woods, and animals would eat you. That's how little I care about you. Bye. Also, you're ugly. Like, it's just.
She's like, hey, I still love you, baby. I'll catch
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. Demetrius.
yeah.
The worst.
I didn't even pick up on the fact that they were together at some point.
Yeah. It's so short. It's
like a throwaway line. Yeah. Yeah.
Girl, Helena.
Get out.
I know we've talked about Hermia and Helena's relationship and their friendship, but I do want to point out how funny it is to me where Hermia and Lysander are telling Helena their plans to run away, and they're like, don't tell anyone, and Helena's like, got it. And then Demetrius walks up and he's like, hey Helena, what's up? And she's like, oh, Hermia and Lysander have gone into the woods.
It's such a bit. I love it.
Yeah.
I love the idea of it happening just so fast.
Yeah. Like, literally, she's like, bye guys, I'll keep your secret. Hey, so here's the thing. It's like, quick switch.
Yeah.
The plot moving, so respect.
Yeah. So does anyone have anything else to say about Hermia and Helena's friendship, since we did cover it earlier? If not, we have like 2 more questions.
Just that I love them.
I know, it makes my heart happy.
And I guess this isn't even about their friendship, but it's in that scene when they're talking about their friendship. We were talking about the funniest part, and I should have named this one, because it really is. It makes me laugh every time. I want to find it again. So, I hate to misquote. Where is it? I can't find the right scene. Oh, when all the like height jabs are going back and forth, and Helena's like, yeah, you puppet, you, and Hermione's just like, puppet? Why so? Like, it really hurt her.
Or like, there's one in that same section, I don't know if I marked it, which was foolish.
Her like a maypole, I think. There's
yeah. But like, when I think it's like Helena saying, it's like, she's fine, she's too close to the ground to see us anyway. I'm like, ouch!
And at the same time, I love that she's like giving all these jabs, and then I guess it leads up to the quote you mentioned earlier of, though she be but little, she is fierce. But she's like, yeah, this stupid little short girl, and then she's like, but protect me from her, because he's gonna beat me up.
Yeah.
I like the idea of Hermia running at Helena and Helena just sticking out her hand.
She's like, if you guys Google image like Helena and Hermia and like find photos of different productions, there's so many good ones. There's ones of like the men like holding Hermia and Helena's like, there's so many great ones. I love it.
I love that. Love my tall and short queens.
Yeah.
I know.
So I would like to move into the last question before quotes. Do you have any adaptations that you would like to recommend? Because I know we were discussing a couple, but maybe we could give like specific ones people can like write them down. Because whenever I search Midsummer Night's Dream adaptation or show, you just get like a whole list. So if anyone has any that they recommend.
And put them in the comments too, if you can, so that people can search them later.
Yeah, good idea.
I'm going to go ahead and say for the 50th time in this live stream, I don't know how to provide that. The National Theater did A Midsummer Night's Dream. I think in 2020 it was streamed during the pandemic, or so maybe it was in 2019. I'm not sure. And it is the best adaptation and production I've ever seen of this play. I love it with my whole heart. I don't know where you can watch it for free. I know the National Theater has like a streaming service, so it's possible if you sign up for that, it might be on there. But if you ever get the chance, maybe they even sell some DVDs. I wonder if they have a DVD of it. I would buy that in a heartbeat. I could not recommend it more.
I think the only one I've seen, which I did enjoy, is the 1999 one with Michelle Pfeiffer that I mentioned. Yeah, it's a movie version, I think. But I think it's a movie, but they filmed a lot of it on a stage, I think. It's been a long time. It's been a long time since I saw it, but I think that's what happened. And I just remember that one being like, they really like played up like the weirdness of the play, which I enjoyed. So yeah, it's been a long time since I saw that one, but I do remember enjoying it. So
it is good. It has Stanley Tucci.
That's right. I forgot.
Yeah. Who said that Stanley Tucci was
Christian Bale? Maybe.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Oh,
I think you're right.
Okay. Yeah. Stanley Tucci played Puck according to Nana. So
yeah.
And so the one I would recommend is the David Kerr 2016 made for television adaptation. That's the only one I've seen. But in that one, Titania and Hippolyta are actually a couple. So Titania has this like ulterior motive to rescue Hippolyta from Theseus.
Spicy.
Yeah.
Oh, that reminds me, I should mention in the National Theater production, not only did they do the Titania Oberon switch, but they not double cast. What's like the opposite of that, where one person is playing two roles? The actor who plays Theseus also plays Oberon, and the actress playing Hippolyta also plays Titania.
Oh, that's really cool.
And it's very interesting and very well done. Yeah.
And that makes sense thematically. Like
yeah.
Yeah.
It's very good.
Oh,
and
I really like that
decision from Game of Thrones.
Who does it have from Game of Thrones?
Brienne of Tarth.
Oh, cool.
I love her.
If you said Kit Harington, I would have ended the live stream now to go watch it.
I wish.
I love Kit Harington. So does anyone want to, we can move into quotes if anyone has any quotes they want to share, unless there's anything else anyone wants to say.
Oh, I think my issue is which quote do I pick?
I know. I have one ready to go. This is funny because when I mark quotes, I don't feel like I usually have that many that are like, oh, this made me laugh. But I think this one, almost all of the quotes that I marked are funny ones. And this one I haven't mentioned yet, which is right at the beginning when Demetrius is like, her dad loves me, so she should marry me instead. And Lysander says, you have her father's love, Demetrius. Let me have Hermia's. Do you marry him?
He literally Pee Wee Herman'd him. Like, I marry him.
I love that so much. Like, that was one of the first quotes I marked, and I just said LOL because, like, it just. Oh my God. Like, that's such, like you were saying, Julia, like, sometimes there's references where you have to kind of like, yes, at the time, this would have been funny because this, but I'm like, this is a joke people make now. Like,
so funny.
Do you marry him?
If you love him so much, why don't you marry him?
Why don't you marry him? Yeah.
Really? I should have held my cards closer because I should have saved the Apollo and Daphne line. While I'm looking and while Taylor shares hers, I just want to say that I really love, in general, that I don't know if you guys picked up on this or if it's just because I'm a nerd. A lot of the speeches that the lovers make are all in like rhyming couplets. And then like the play elsewhere is like, and now we're just talking and da 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 da. And then it's like, and now we're getting poetic because we're talking about love. And every time I just go,
actually, that was something I was supposed to bring up, and I like totally forgot that the lovers speak in couplets. The fairies speak more in, what's it called?
Blank verse?
Blank verse. I was going to say freestyle.
Or I think it's called free verse, too. That would be a production I want to see.
I would love that.
I would love that, too.
Yeah.
But, like, Bottom and the Rude Mechanicals, they speak in prose or whatever.
Yeah.
I found one I want to share.
Okay. Yes.
Bottom, actually, this is even just like a part of a line he says, but Bottom says, reason and love keep little company together nowadays.
I love that quote.
That's very wise.
Yeah.
So I've been stuck. I was stuck between, because I do love the line where Helena is talking about Hermia, when she is angry, she is keen and shrewd. She was a vixen when she went to school, and though she be but little, she is fierce. But that's such an obvious quote to share. And then I was going to share quotes from when Helena was talking about how close she and Hermia are. But I think I'm going to go with my unfortunate favorite, which I've discussed, but I didn't discuss this specific line, where Bottom says, nay, you must name his name, and half his face must be seen through the lion's neck, and he himself must speak through, saying thus, or to the same defect, ladies, or fair ladies, I would wish you, or I would request you, or I would entreat you not to fear, not to tremble, my life for yours. If you think I come hither as a lion, it were pity of my life. No, I am no such thing. I am a man as other men are. No, I am no such thing. I am a man as other men are. Wow, I cannot read. I repeated that line. No, I am no such thing. I am a man as others are, and there indeed let him name his name and tell them plainly that he is Snug the joiner. I just think it's so funny. Ladies, or fair ladies.
Yeah. Take your pick.
I love that whole initial scene where they're giving out the parts, and Bottom's like, "Oh, but I can play that. Oh no, let me be that role." Like
and isn't it Flute who plays Thisbe? And they're like, Flute would make the prettiest lady, and he's like, I shall play the lady. Like it's just,
like, but I've got a mustache coming in, or whatever. And they're like, too bad.
You're the lady. Yeah. I know I already shared mine. I'm going to share another one.
Go for it.
This is also like, it's not when Helena and Hermia are talking together, but I just feel like it's a mark of how close they are. And when Lysander is like declaring himself to Helena after he's been love potioned, and Helena says, these vows are Hermia's. Will you give her o'er? Weigh oath with oath, and you will nothing weigh. Your vows to her and me put in two scales, will even weigh, and both as light as tails. And Lysander said, I had no judgment when to her I swore. Helena says, nor none in my mind, now you give her o'er. Like, she's like, if you are dumping my friend, like my girl, then there's nothing you can say to me that would make me reconsider. And I just love that.
Yeah.
I love this.
Good play. I think this might be my favorite thing that we've read for Past It Classic so far, other than Jane Eyre.
That's exciting. Julia's like, I have done it!
My heart!
We read a lot of good books other than The Three Musketeers. And obviously Jane Eyre was going to be my favorite so far, but this is like a close second. I love this.
Guys, but can I tell you something that I was kind of formulating in my mind as I was driving from my condo, which I was painting this morning back over here before the live show? I am compiling a playlist that is Taylor Swift songs as Past It Classics reads. And it's coming along brilliantly, if I may say.
Oh my god. That's honestly so exciting.
You know, I love me some T Swift. And it just kind of happened organically. And then I was like, wait, and this one works. And that one works. And this one works. So I'm going to make that. And then I'll share the link on our Twitter or something when I do.
Please do.
Oh my god, please do. It would be, not to like run with your idea, but it would be a lot of fun if we all made our own interpretations of playlists.
That would be really fun.
Yes. That would be fun. Keep an eye on the Twitter account, you guys.
Although I was gonna say I don't pay for Spotify, so I don't use it a ton. And I almost think I might make it. Do you guys remember 8 Tracks? The website 8 Tracks?
Oh yeah.
I kind of want to make it on 8 Tracks because you can like put a comment under the song, so then I can like put the book so people know. Because if Spotify's on shuffle, you're gonna be like, okay, here's a Taylor Swift song. I don't know what it relates to.
I don't even use Spotify, so that works for me.
Perfect.
Awesome. I just wanted to, because I've been not ignoring the comments, but forgetting that I have the power to just put them up here. But Keir has this really good point about Bottom's speech that ladies or fair ladies could also be a comment on class and who was allowed to attend. Poor women, more tougher, which is a really good point, and I hadn't thought of that.
That is
Thank you for bringing that up. And sorry, everyone, for forgetting that I could do that.
But you've all been wonderful in the comments.
Yes.
Yes, thank you so much. So, Carrie, did you want to talk about the one you're hosting next month?
Yes, and I meant to grab the book before we started, and I did not. So let me see. I think my microphone cord reaches.
Okay. Yeah, I'm excited for the next one. I'm actually excited for everything we've got on our list.
I didn't realize this one was such a chunker until
I know.
I went, oh.
Yeah. So our next book is going to be Can You Forgive Her by Anthony Trollope. And this is a longer book. And this one, I think we talked about right at the beginning of Past It Classics that if we ever need to extend for like a month or something, we will do that. So again, keep an eye on our Twitter account. If it feels like we're all needing more time, we will do that. But hopefully it reads pretty quickly. I don't know. I read like the first little bit and I was already entertained. So that promises well. Yeah, and this one has like quite a long summary that's basically just sounds like a lot of drama, and I'm excited about it. I actually might just go to Goodreads and copy that into a comment because yeah, that would be a lot to read. So I'll do that. But yeah, that's going to be our next one, and that will be on my channel.
Yeah. And like Kara said, we'll keep you updated on when that's going to be, because that is a huge book.
Yeah. And I'm hoping it'll be like East of Eden, which despite our myriad problems with that book, it was, I think, a pretty quick read for most of us.
It was engrossing.
Yes. So I'm hoping it'll be like that, but if we need to extend it, we will.
Yeah, I planned on doing the audiobook for this one, and then I was in a used bookstore, and I was like, oh, we're reading that. So I picked up a copy, and then I was like, great. And then I actually looked at it, and I was like, this is over 800 pages? Okay.
Yeah, depending on the edition. Like, I think mine is just over, like, 600 maybe, but they are quite chunky. I'm trying to find the exact summary that I have, and if I can't, I'll just read it out again. But, where is it? Yeah, I can't find the summary, so I'm just going to declaim it for you here. Alice Vavasor is torn between a risky marriage with her ambitious cousin George and the safer prospect of a union with the formidably correct John Grey. Her indecision is reflected in the dilemmas of her friend, Lady Glencora, confined in the proprieties of her life with Plantagenet Palliser, but tempted to escape with her penniless lover, Burgo Fitzgerald, and of her aunt, the irreverent widow Mrs. Greenow, who must choose between a solid farmer and an untrustworthy soldier as her next husband. Each woman finds her choice bound up with the cold realities of money and the tension between public expectation and private inclination.
I have so many thoughts.
God.
One of those sounds like Far From the Madding Crowd. Second thought, imagine your name being Plantagenet. I'm so sorry to him, but oh no.
The names of these are wild already. Like, Burgo Fitzgerald? Like, what? That poor man. So I think it's going to be, like, really fun and interesting character dynamics and also some scathing social commentary on class and gender and money. So I think it sounds great.
Yep, it sounds like a lot of drama.
Yes.
I feel like that, you know that picture that was going around with Chris Evans with the long nails and the hair bonnet?
Literally, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Well, thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. And thank you, Kara and Julia, for joining me. I had so much fun reading this and talking about it. It's so good. So remember to keep an eye on the Twitter account for any updates like playlists or dates for live shows. And thank you so much for tuning in, everyone. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.